Hello, all. My name is Erta the Wanderer, and I come out of the jungle today to talk with one of our most esteemed generals, the great Lizard Wizard. How are we doing today, Wizard?
Hello, I'm doing well. How have you been?
So far, so good. Things in general are looking up.
Hey, that's good.
Mm-hmm. And we have quite a lot of news coming out of Games Workshop in these early months of the year.
Yeah,
They were
which is
si-
good.
yeah, they were silent for 4 months. We got nothing out from AOS, and then
Yep.
all at once.
Yeah, I know. I keep forgetting that Lumineth technically happened all the way back in July. Uh,
And that was the last we heard from AOS for so
yeah,
long.
besides the Sons of Behemoth.
Yeah. Oh, I forget. I
Yeah,
keep forgetting they exist because they're such a non-entity. Sorry, Giants.
I know. They're beautiful though.
Hmm. So much of this game can be described like that. Oh, it's beautiful, but it doesn't matter because it's awful.
Yep.
Alrighty, but let's see. What? Let's start with new releases. We've got quite a bunch of them. First on everyone's tongue when we're talking about Seraphon is we have a new Sotek proxy coming out soon.
Yes.
I know they're endless spells for daughters, but let's be honest, that's all everyone ever thinks when they see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do something with it. Like, even if it's just like converting it and substituting it and using it as a different endless spell.
Hmm. I mean, I was gonna get them anyway because Daughters of Cain are my new passion, but yeah, it's a fun one. Unfortunately, we can't proxy it in for anything because it doesn't look like anything and its base isn't like anything, but it's cool and it'd look great on a display board.
Yeah, like it would take some converting work to get it to work as something, but
Hmm. Like
I
maybe
I
you
hope
could,
to find something.
yeah, maybe you could make a shrine with the engine of the gods and replace the circle with it.
Yeah. Yep, that would work.
Hmm. But that's but they're coming as a part of a Daughters of Cain expansion and a new book, which is surprising because they literally just got a new supplement.
Yeah, I know with the Broken Realms, they were like the first one. So I don't know. I'm wondering if like they're gonna wrap all those rules in or if there's just gonna still be like reference this book.
Mm. To be perfectly honest, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some major rules changes. Hagnar is going to get smacked in the face. Hopefully, other things get buffed to
Honestly, what I'd
compensate.
rather see than Hagnar get knocked down is for other things to get brought up.
Well, to be fair, I don't think Hagnar should be knocked down. I think it's fairly balanced overall, but this is
Yeah.
GW we're talking about.
Yeah, I it's true, but I do kind of feel like Hagnar got solved um just as the meta creeped. Like,
Right. I mean, like I
yeah,
said, it's balanced at the moment. It was only ever broken back when it was the only 2.0 book in this game.
yeah, yep.
And yeah, I'm hoping for buffs for snakes, and in general, we'll see how it goes because
I
they're
really what is it? What are the stalkers, the shooty snakes?
hmm?
Uh
Bloodstalkers, yes,
blood stalkers. That's the unit that I really want to see buffed, like out of their lineup.
because at the moment it's their only range option, and it's really really bad.
Yeah, it's just so efficient or inefficient. Like there's yeah, it's bad. Like they're okay. Um they're worth bringing so that you can get some shooting to access heroes and pick off support heroes. But they're bad shooting.
Oh, they are terrible.
Like they're the worst decent shooting in the game.
That is a loaded term, but I know what you mean. I'm gonna have
Like
to start using
they're
that.
not Ungor Raiders, they're not Grot Shooters. Like they're a solid shooting stat line.
They aren't base skinks.
They aren't base skinks, but like out of shooting that's actually viable, they're the worst of it in my opinion.
They're just a part of the GW problem with elites.
Yep.
GW always has a problem realizing that expensive, small amounts of bodies have to be powerful to justify it.
Yes, because they're not really doing the objective thing for you.
Mm. And like Stormcast, this is major problem where
Oh, for sure.
the only really good thing in their army is like evocators and shooting, and even the shooting's really lackluster.
The shooting was great, um, but the creep has happened.
Hmm. And yeah, it was great back when it was one of the only 2.0 blocks in the meta.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
so many armies you can say this about. Like Flesh Eater Courts used to be oppressive, and then, well, okay, scratch that. Flesh Eater Courts was oppressive for entirely different reasons, but
Mm.
no,
Flesh Eater Courts, one of their great courts, speaking of, with the FAQ, just got changed to not be able to take um, the other leaders on mount. Only the one is on a mount, and then the others can't be. Um,
yes, yes, this is actually more wide-reaching than Flesh Eater Courts because it touches on the bolded versus keyword debate that's been going on
yes.
for forever, which actually might hit us because I haven't looked at um, our battalion that requires a old blood.
Mm.
It
Yeah,
might
yeah, that's
it
a good
might
point.
be that we can't take carnosaurs in our fire lances anymore, which would be disastrous. But I'm gonna have to double check that. But yeah, for the longest time, when uh, especially they even FAQ'd it back in the time when it mentioned something in bold, it was any variation of that thing. So old blood could be an old blood or an old blood on Carnosaur. But with this latest FAQ, it addresses Flesh Eater Courts specifically, but everything else in general, saying that that's no longer the case, and you have to have exactly what's on the war scroll or battalion in this case.
Yes, yeah, which is big.
It's a big change. Not for everyone. There are maybe four armies in the entire game that abuse this. Well, abuse, quote unquote, unquote.
Use it.
Use, yeah. But it's going, especially the fact that this is runs counter to an old FAQ. This is going to be a problem at tables.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that changed in the FAQ. Like they stated that Seraphon can't bind enemy soul linked spells, which is fine.
Which
Like
is
it
fair.
was,
They give up a
yeah,
lot to make those spells theirs. -1
yes,
to casting, especially against, I don't know, Seraphon, is really bad.
yes, it's a big ask in terms of resource commitment. And it's honestly not something that I had ever been like, I need to bind this soul link spell anyways. I'm just like, I'll just dispel it.
To be honest, ever
Um,
since they limited it to 3 endless spells, I've never even considered that spell.
Yeah, because it's not like you need it now in order to deal with Kabbalah slaves to darkness. Like it's just not as needed as it
Yeah.
was.
Or Cage
Like
Gets, Cage Vange
exactly.
or Gets. There were a
Yep.
lot of things that would make that a useful thing to put on one of your
Yeah.
wizards.
And you can always still like slan switch into it. Like use that change spell. Now I do need it, and you can use it. Like it's still
But to be
not
perfectly
worthless,
honest,
but
I don't ever see it becoming necessary. My
I
Slan.
can think of instances where I would want to do it because I would want to use it to block their pile-ins or something. Um,
Oh,
like
so
it's
they
a
can't move
tool
through
that
it?
I don't regret having. Um, well, like so to move it to like create a funnel or whatever.
Hmm.
Like it's a useful spell. Um,
Very edge cases. But,
but exactly, exactly, and it's increasingly more edge now that they changed the max number of endless spells to three.
mhm, pulled the rug out of a lot from under a lot of people. But,
Yeah, I mean us as well. Like spell spam, endless spell spam was a viable strategy for Seraphon.
It, yeah, frustrating, which is why they changed it. But yeah, it's always been something you can do if necessary.
Yep.
Plus, we have the heroes. We
Yeah.
you always have enough heroes to make it viable. It also
Yep.
would have
We've
given the Trog something to do.
yes. Yep.
But yeah, in
Oh,
general.
there's also all the new Lumineth units, the Kangaroo Boys,
hmm
the
To be
flying monkey with a giant stick on a cloud, like they get Sun Wukong.
Yep. To be perfectly honest, I never saw kangaroos. I always saw raptors because they have horns, and
Hmm.
the only thing kangaroo about horns and claws, and the only thing kangaroo is the tuft at the end of their tail. So that always weirded me out. Mostly, I just looked at them and thought, "Oh, are those space elders on dinosaurs?"
Oh yeah, the Extadites.
Exodites. That's it.
I mean, people are definitely going to take those and convert them and use them for that.
Of course they are.
I think the space king or the kangaroo thing started because that first leaked photo had a bit of screen flare on it from the cellophane
Mm,
from the photo that was taken, and the face looked very like rodent. It looked like a kangaroo.
fair enough. But yeah, there's a lot. They're finally getting the second half of their army a year after the first half came out.
Post, it's more like 6 months, right? Because July, and now we're in. Although who knows when it's going to actually hit? It could be a year. Yeah.
hmm But yeah, there's. It's going to be interesting. Lumineth is already a top army. I'm wondering how far this is going to tip the scales.
Yeah, especially since one of their major weaknesses, and it's not that much of a weakness, is Lumineth's lack of movement.
hmm
If this half of the army, like the wind and water, has a lot of movement, um,
I mean,
that
it
could
is wind as opposed to mountain, so I'm pretty sure it is.
exactly, yeah. So this might like if their saves aren't low enough to make up for the amount of movement they get, then it's going to be a much harder army to deal with.
hmm And they already. Well, it's going to be hard to do that because Teclis can just give Area 5 up ward.
Yeah, but like if they're at a 4 up and then they have ways with Aether Quartz to become a 3 up, and then they can get that 5 up ward on the backside of it.
Yeah, because
So like
they
if
already
they're
have
sitting
some
at five
solid
up
anvils.
saves, yes, yeah, Wardens are solid. Um, and then
Hammers
they
can
hit
be
like a
even better.
truck if they were. Yeah, but they've also only got 4 inch movement, and I just don't really care about anything that only has a 4 inch movement.
True, but I'm
Like,
pretty
sure,
sure
you
the
can
new
double move
wizards
them,
are
but
going to be able to help with that.
yeah, that's what I'm kind of interested to see is like, are they going to have teleporting? Uh, yeah, because that's going to be real hard for like that'll knock Seraphon to A tier, I think, if they have teleporting.
I
Like
mean,
we just
they're
can't
already
deal with.
our main counter.
Really, I still feel like it's KO. Like I've
Well,
had pretty easy games against all my Lumineth,
fair.
and they're
The
running like the standard Lumineth, like uh double
I
block of
say that
Warden,
with
double
only
block of
having
Sentinels.
two KO games to judge from because nobody plays it on TTS for
Mm.
some reason. But there's like 8 Seraphon Lumineth pairings, and we are like a 5 losses to 3 wins.
Oh,
So it's close, but we're definitely on even
I'll
footing now.
I'm gonna say something cocky. I got to get on and change
That's fair.
that.
You would definitely swing the numbers. But yeah, they're also getting the next supplement, which is again weird. They just got their new
Because it
book.
yep.
They just came
One
out less than 6 months ago. Why are all the new people getting the new rules?
one of my friends was lamenting like, "No, I have my collector's edition battle tome and it won't even last me a year."
hmm Yeah, it's so weird. All the new stuff is getting new stuff, and all the
I
old
know,
stuff. Well, okay, not all. Nurgle's getting touched on in the same book, so is Flesh Eater Quartz, which is good.
but hear me out. Maybe that means Seraphon's going to get some more love.
To be honest, I'm hoping they wait a bit. I would rather have a shorter wait until the thing after that than a really short wait between until the next thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, especially in terms of, like, longevity of staying power. But I just want plastic Croxagore.
Everyone does, but I don't think GW cares.
That's yeah.
The amount of lack of effort GW puts into all of our AOS stuff is shocking.
Yeah. I don't think they were expecting Seraphon to be as popular as they have been
Then they haven't
with
been
their
paying
their
attention.
rebuild.
For the last 5 years, we've been in the top 5 most popular armies, even when
I
we've been
know.
doing so badly that we've had to resort to such cheese. Yeah, Seraphon has always been one of their top selling armies. If they
Yep,
aren't building for us, then they are fools.
agreed. But
Huh.
yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of like new cool things. I've never been a big fan of elves. Like I don't care about the elf armies,
And the fact that
but I
this
know a
is
lot of
the
people
fifth
who
elf
really like
army.
them. Yeah, like I'd rather see dwarves get some more love than elves, but I also don't really care about dwarves. Like I don't know.
True. I've always been a fan of the weirder races in fantasy settings. If you can do whatever,
Hey,
why would you want to be a short guy or a guy who's an ass?
yeah, it's just like a human plus two.
Mm.
Like it's yeah.
And so, like, yeah, in all my D&D games, in all of my Sigmar things, humans are so uninteresting. The only time I ever play them is if they have a significant number disadvantage.
Yeah, like I'd much rather be a megalomaniac rat man than an elf.
Hmm.
Um
The only reason I play cities is because they have griffins.
Well, and they look cool. Like anything
Granted,
that has a regimental vibe, like Lumineth Realm Lords, they look really cool on the table. Like even if I don't like most of their models individually, and I'm not a
hmm
huge fan of the elf aesthetic, like when you see them blocked up and on the table in their shining companies, they look cool.
it's probably why people still are such a fan of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, because
Oh yeah.
blocks of infantry, or tub thumpers, foot sloggers, all the good stuff, they look really cool.
Yeah,
It's
like
Yeah, it's one
yeah.
of the many reasons why I like Seraphon. There's very little I dislike about our army. The more I talk about the reasons I like, the more I realize this. But the blocks, the legions of Saurus or Temple Guard is just so much fun.
I've run like that's actually one of the things I miss about the old book is I thought Temple Guard were better in the previous book.
100%.
Um but I do miss like setting up uh multiple blocks of 20 Temple Guard. Like that just looks so cool with their halberds even though they were only 1 inch reach.
Hmm. They still are. It didn't change.
I know that I was really hoping. What
And
ooh, maybe that's what we need. The Saurus Eternity Warden has a buff that just gives Saurus guard within distance of him 2 inch reach.
I mean, just a passive one.
Yeah, just a passive one. Just
Knowing
like
GW, that would make his CP ability, making it
yeah,
only slightly less worthless.
yeah,
But yeah, I could see that. Give the Eternity Warden any reason to exist.
yep. Other than just he's more expensive and worse at the job of protecting this land.
Hmm. And worse at the job of buffing people because he can only buff guard, and guard aren't good.
Yes, yep.
Plus,
Like I mean, if guard had 2 inch reach,
they still wouldn't be great, but they'd be less
I
awful.
might take him over warriors just because of the meta. Like having those 2 wounds and having
Really?
Rend innately and not having to take them in a battalion, like they just have the Rend one already on threes and threes. It might be worth it just because there's so many ways to give negatives to hit and stuff. Um, and so many ways to like I don't know, like not having to take a battalion in order to get Rend on spears,
The
like
math
being able to
doesn't
play
follow,
those in
but fair enough.
coalesced. I don't know. I would consider it.
I mean, it would be. To be no, I wouldn't. But that's We tend to go different ways in the art of design.
Yeah, that's true.
But back to the FAQ,
Uh-huh. Yep.
there's a controversy currently going around about the lack of anything. The fact that they A made us wait a month when they knew we weren't getting anything and didn't just tell us, and B that they didn't give us anything, despite the fact that 40K got a entire rebalance and just today a additional rebalance. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, so one, I would rather them do nothing if they don't have the data to make a good decision
Mm-hmm.
than to just do something for the sake of doing it. Um,
I
so
tend to agree, but
so in this case, it's more like a, hey, they didn't break it, so that's acceptable. Now, are there things I want them to fix? Like, yes, but honestly, I think my biggest gripes with AOS at this moment are things that are gonna be like a third edition fix, not an FAQ fix.
Mhm.
Um, like I would like it if you couldn't shoot into combat now that shooting is so strong. Um,
Huh.
like you, if you're in combat with a unit, you can shoot the unit you're in combat with. That's fine. But I don't want other units outside that combat to be able to shoot into it. Like I would like that to change with the new edition. But that's not something that I really want to happen in an FAQ. Like that's big enough that I'd rather see that as an addition level change, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I would actually entirely support that change. Granted, it would make shooting go the way of the dodo, but I think that it would still be kept around as ancillary, specifically because hearing sniping is so necessary, but also it wouldn't be as oppressive as it is now.
Yeah, yeah, you would have counterplay.
Mm.
Um, like so I would like to see like there were things I wanted to have happen in the FAQ and the errata, but honestly, I'm perfectly happy with what happened. Like if didn't they didn't break it. They didn't make anything unplayable. They didn't ruin anything. Like, I'll take it.
For the most part, I'm going to agree with you, but there are some things that needed fixing that have been a problem since before this drought of games.
Mm. Hey, I mean, they finally made the Briar Queen a wizard.
Yeah, granted, but I think
It
that
only
they
took them two
definitely
years.
could have thrown a boon to, oh, I don't know, Beast of Chaos, Flesh Eater Courts, the Lariel specifically, make her 100 points cheaper. There are a lot of armies that don't need new data because they've been out for a while now
Yes.
that need the help that they could have just said, okay, okay, we get you. Let's shave those points off the top. I mean,
Yeah.
Cities has been out for almost 2 years now, and well, 1.5 years now, and there are some potent imbalances in those points that could definitely be addressed.
Yeah. Demi Griffs need help.
Yes. Why does everyone tells me they're fine, but then I'm just all they're so expensive. They're more expensive than Gore Gruntas and they do worse.
So, and this is like anecdotal,
Mhm.
but I've never sat up on a table and saw Demi Griffs across from me and thought, how do I deal with those? Um,
I mean, they are good. They're not a bad unit. They're just expensive.
yes, exactly.
Like,
Uh, it's the elite issue. GW has not figured out a good way to balance elites in Age of Sigmar.
and it wouldn't be that
Um,
hard to fix. Just make them 20 points cheaper. 140 for an elite cav unit where you get 3 models is actually pretty solid.
yeah. Well, I mean, consider the fact that Blood Crushers, which are 5 wounds each, or Mighty Skull Crushers,
Mm.
5 wounds each with a 3-up save, 3 attacks, threes and threes, rend 1 damage, are 160 points.
Mhm.
Oh, and they do mortal wounds on impact. uh, so yeah, like there's definitely room to make demigriffs cheaper.
Mm.
Um,
And I'm going to harp on this till the end of time. They have in their cities is going to be addressed in the next Broken Realms, according to the page. Make battalions non-city exclusive. It was a bad idea in the
Hoping to
first
get
place.
more cities too.
Hmm? Yes, that would be great. Make something that isn't just action and gur. It was a.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it doesn't matter anymore because universal
Realm
realm
artifacts. Yeah.
artifacts are shit now. But
Like
uh,
I would like to see, or instead of from Garan, I would like to see something from Gur, like from the realm of Beast. Like,
that's right, I misspoke.
yeah, you're fine. I wouldn't have called it if I wasn't thinking about realm of Beast, anyways.
I mean, we know they
Um,
have cities in the realm of beasts. We know how they have
yeah, there's
cities in
like
the realm of
supposed to be that
death.
one on top of the back of some giant beast or whatever.
Hmm. There's a
Like,
lot of cool stuff they could do, but wish listing while wish listing.
yeah, I know, right? Uh, but yeah, I'm sad that they didn't address some point changes. Like it would have been nice to see some points go down. I still would like to see the Troglodon go down another 10 or 20 points.
At least.
Yep.
And
I want the
uh,
Skink Starseer to be a level 2 wizard.
yes.
But then, like, I think about it and I'm like, yeah, but he gets 2 free arcane bolts that he doesn't have to pass to get off
Hmm.
because he's got his shooting attack anyways. So I don't know. Like, maybe he's fine.
I think we're
Uh,
going to talk about him later on because we've got a request from one of our
oh,
viewers to
yeah,
talk.
yeah.
But yeah, I think he's perfectly fine. There are things in our army that definitely need fixing. Like
Mhm.
Ripperdactyls could go down to 20 points for 3. They aren't even worth that. But
Yeah, I'd rather just see something like they always re-roll their hit rolls. Like that would make like I'd rather see them get stronger than get cheaper. Um,
yes, but they never address war scrolls outside of books. So I'm
that's true. Yeah,
as much as I would like that, we're limiting our what would have been nice to points only.
that's true. That's true.
Everyone else would want Croak to get more expensive. I'd think that that's pushing the House of Cards a bit too far to the left, but
Yeah, I
so be
don't
it.
think Croak needs to be more expensive, and this is why. What makes Croak scary, what makes him effective in the meta, is 1 to 2 units of Saurus Guard to support him, a Saurus Astroloth Bearer, and a Bellwind Vortex.
The setup which
All
is
that
more than
together,
600.
exactly. He costs more than Techless, and he's less good than Techless.
Mm.
Um,
I think most people ignore that, and even when you bring it up, they say, oh, that doesn't matter. Everyone needs setup. No, that's not true. And even if it was, it doesn't matter because having to pay 600 points for a setup means you better be getting 600 points out of said setup.
yes, exactly. Um,
But yeah, everyone looks at the fact that he's only 340. I forget, I don't play him.
320.
320?
Yep.
I think he could stand to go up to 340 to address the whiners, but even so, they look at that and then they look at what he does when he is buffed to high heavens, and they say, "Oh no, it's the end of
Yeah.
the world." The same. This is the same problem with skinks.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at what skinks can do when you invest heavily in them, and even then, it's not terribly impressive. And then they look at it and say,
Yeah. I
"They're
mean,
only
fully
60
buffed
points."
skinks are gonna kill like 3.5 ogres. So like
Yeah,
they're not as scary as
yeah, they aren't
yeah.
as efficient as a lot of other things in the game, but you look at the fact that they only cost 60 for 10, and look at what they can do when you not only have 40 of them and but 2 buff heroes.
Yeah, but they forget that it's like what 190 points for the priest and star priest. It is 190, like I
Yep,
already know. In
but they
order to make that unit of skinks good,
but
and
they
you've got a
can
one in
buff
three
other
chance
people.
that they can't do the whole thing.
Yes, but they can buff other people. It's not the same.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
right. I keep forgetting that it's the skink priest is a role until I remember the one game I've played focusing on skinks and none of my roles worked.
Yeah. Speaking of one day I will finally post pictures. I just finished painting a skink priest last weekend, and I love him. He came out exactly how I wanted him to be. He's got his pretty feather cloak.
Nice. I'll
So
look forward to seeing you put that up there.
now I finally have all my skink priest painted.
Yeah, I still have the feathers on one of mine. I painted everything but the feathers, so they're stark white as opposed to all the blue and the red, which kind of looks
Ah,
cool, but also looks unfinished.
fair, fair.
Hmm. Well, I think that it. Oh wait. You were telling me about a new warband with rules that might affect us.
Yeah, so the rules for the Kraga's, I'm not gonna, the new Slaves to Darkness Warriors of Chaos warband that is part of Underworlds. Those rules are now out. Um, I've got mine already built it because I was able to get it a day early because of reasons. So I was super happy. Ended up finding the rules for them for their in Age of Sigmar. And what's really interesting about them is they don't have the hero keyword. So normally war bands, the leader is a hero. You buy that leader for the number of points, and then the rest of it is 0 points, and you have to bring it with it. This doesn't have that. This just has a set points. It's just a set 140 points. It's not split, and the wizard that is part of that unit is just part of the unit. Has the wizard keyword, can cast one spell, unbind one spell, knows Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt. Doesn't take up a hero slot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's massive. Like if our warband ends up doing something similar to that, that's huge for us. Um,
I'm
Granted, oh, go ahead.
yeah, we're very hero hungry, and
Yes,
that would do a lot. And we get to see our rules sometime this month, and then they come out later this month. So I'm thinking we're probably going to see a sneak peek this week or next.
yes. Well, and the cards that came in that box, like they've got skink art on them
Mm-hmm.
for some of the abilities and stuff. Like they were obviously designing them together, which like everyone knew, but it was still super cool to see it and be like, hey, skinks, that's me.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes,
yeah.
we're so desperate for any amount of content.
And it was new art.
Mm-hmm.
So Seraphon finally technically got some new art.
Yeah, first time in 5 years.
um,
But
so yeah, like that's a really interesting possibility. One thing to note though is that normally a sorcerer lord will have 4 wounds and a 5-up save.
mm-hmm.
This guy's just part of that unit. He's got 2 wounds and a 4+ save. He also doesn't have oracular visions, which is like their built-in stick ability where they just let a unit reroll saves. So I don't know. Maybe if we're following in a similar vein and
I
he's a star priest, he
to be
might not be a star priest and he might not have stick.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I don't think we are. From what it looks like, that character is an ancillary one. He's not the main hero.
Exactly. His
And
sister for that group is the actual leader.
yeah, and in this one, these guys
That
very,
guy's the
very
leader.
much are. Like
Yeah.
we have two, possibly three major heroes in this warband. We have three named characters. I don't think that's what we meant, GW, when we were asking for our named
Yeah, I
characters
know,
back,
right?
but fair enough. So I'm pretty sure it's going to have a hero keyword because we have three heroes.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it will operate a bit like Gobblepalooza. Like maybe they'll all be a hero, but not a hero type thing. I don't
Yeah,
know.
honestly, don't know. The they are going to have to break conventions to make a good chunk of that unit at all worth it.
Yes.
Because usually, when the bodyguard models are just the same as the singular model from that unit, and skinks are awful,
Yeah.
so while they may look cool, they're going to like do nothing and just exist.
What I would actually really like is for them to get the old summon starlight spell back, like where we can buff our unit to give them -1 to be hit.
It was
Like
an
that would make me
amazing one.
super happy.
Yeah, anything to make our guys less squishy, as we're
Yeah, just so that
so
like
so
because
squishy.
the way we work is like we buff up our guys and then we missile them out. So like being able to do that instead of having to put it on an enemy unit, like that would be pretty cool.
Hmm.
I would be happy to have that return.
Who knows? We'll know soon enough, and we'll address it next episode.
Yeah.
But well, I think that addresses most of the new stuff.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Oof, a lot of time. But we've had a request from one of our viewers who wants us to go over some of the less common, like the non-meta lists. There's a lot of talks about skinks. There's a lot of talks about Starborn because that's what is good and it's what people plays. He
Mhm.
wants to know more what we would do if we were running something that isn't mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for him, my main army is a very non-mainstream army.
Yes. Yep.
I have, as I mentioned earlier, I am a big fan of footsloggers. I like grindy melee. I like specifically because our Saurus are so cool. Our temple guards are
They
even
look
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, our temple guards are even cooler, but aren't very good. And so Saurus aren't the best thing in the world, but there are a lot of things you can do to make them pretty solid melee army. It's just that the meta doesn't like pretty solid melee armies at the moment.
Yeah, and the other thing that they match up against, like, woohoo, I finally got a melee army to fight, are OBR and Fire Slayers.
And orcs.
Uh and Orcs. Yeah. So
To be
they're fine.
mhm.
They're just not our best.
To be honest, I like my OBR matchup. Most
Hmm.
of the time, I'm pretty sure I can win that grind, especially because of how I specifically build my lists. But
Yeah, all that Rend and Mortal Wounds.
yes, Rend, Mortal Wounds, and Croxagore. When
Yep.
you are up against Cloud of Infantry, Croxagore shine.
Uh-huh. Ooh, 20 Mortec. Looks like I've got 24 attacks.
Yep. So whenever I pull this list out, I run it in Dracothian's Tale because
Mhm.
Starborn Saurus are better than Coalesced Saurus. Always have been.
Yes. Yes.
The 10 bravery is always important on anything that's coming in large numbers. This is
Yeah, it's massive.
you do not want want to battle shock off the table, and it is so easy for a large block of 30 to battle shock off the table. But
Yeah, yeah.
in
Like,
addition, the the battalion is +1 rend to weapons, which is amazing on spears and even better on small units of clubs.
yeah, like 10-man club units. I mean, they really shine at 20 when you can get that 15 or more buff for the extra attack.
Hmm.
But
I've been trying to retool my list. I keep tweaking it, hoping someday I'll actually get a chance to play it. But
hmm,
it is hard to fit as many swords in a list as you want because of how intensive our hero core has to be.
yeah,
And so, at Dracothian's Tale does a lot to address the fact that Saurus are unfortunately very slow. They only move 5, which isn't terrible as far as foot sloggers go, but it's not good. And so,
yeah, I miss the old drums because of that. Like,
yeah, yeah. There's a lot about our old Saurus that I miss, which is surprising. They fixed the main problem, which is the fact that the horde bonuses were terrible, and they made
yep,
it a good horde bonus, and then they stopped. They
yep.
stopped right there. In fact, they made some parts of it not as good.
I mean, a 4-up save is probably still overall better than ignoring first or rend one only one.
Agreed. But I, mm, I would like their shields to do anything.
Yeah, other than just knowing that it got changed to be a 4+ save, like it would be nice if they had a rule
Yeah,
like
I
reroll
mean,
save rolls of 1.
every model that has a shield, outside of Saurus, has a rule for that shield, even if it's only +1 to save in melee and only melee. In this
Yep.
case, I would prefer if it was +1 to save against ranged attacks.
Or ignore rend on ranged attacks,
That
like
would
rend
work
1.
too. I There are a lot of things. It doesn't have to be necessarily good, but the fact that like make them cost 100 points instead of 90, and then make their shield do anything. That said,
I can respect that.
the drums re-rolling charges are really useful, especially for the list I run.
Yep,
And
yep.
because Starborn addresses this slow thing, you can drop a big block of I use 30s because 40s are expensive and
Mm.
most of the time unnecessary because
Okay, yeah.
when you charge in and die, the extra 10 doesn't help.
Yep.
But being able to drop a 30 onto a objective point and just hold, because SARS can be very tanky, especially in one of my alternate lists. Um, Yeah, you have to give up all forms of attack to do so. But yeah, airdropping them where they need to be, or teleporting them where they need to be, and then making a charge. A 9-inch charge with +1 to run, and either D3 charging or re-rolling or just re-rolling means you're probably going to get your big block where they need to go.
Yeah, thanks to the Starseer.
Mm-hmm. The Starseer is such a boon to melee armies. It's a shame that our melee's armies aren't very good at the moment.
Yeah.
Better than a lot of people would think, but at the moment everything's ranged and our heroes die so easily to targeted shooting
Mm.
or
Yeah,
spells or
that's fair.
anything. And so you have to make the first turn count. We've been talking every episode about target acquisition. It is very important in a melee source list
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because you have to break their back turn 2 at the latest. If they make it past then, you've lost.
Yeah, and I feel like the big issue with the list, like its big weakness, is that it's vulnerable to really informed counterplay.
Oh, of course.
Um, so like you have to, it's all about deployment. Like you have to make the right game plan and conceal that game plan as long as possible.
Hmm. Which is another reason why Starborn helps them more than Coalesce does, because
Exactly, it lets them conceal their game plan.
I can deploy entirely on the backfield with my screens up front and my source ready to punch you in the face if you hit me,
Yes,
and I can still teleport into your backline and massacre you because source do solid damage, not incredible damage. They when fully buffed, they are on par with Ard boys without the defensive abilities. But yeah, there's a lot of potential provided. I like to pair them with skink screens because our screens are pretty solid, and
yep.
and Croxagore because I love Croxagore, even if it's not the best.
Croxigar are pretty point efficient.
Oh, very much so, provided you use
Um,
them properly.
yeah, like if they're I have a hard time deciding between like, okay, I've got roughly like 360 points sitting around. Do I want to get like 280 of that into Croxagore and then take a hero? Or do I want to bring like some salamanders? Like that's always a genuinely tough decision for me.
Hmm.
And it's normally more based on whatever the weaker point of my list is.
Right.
Um,
They both fulfill a. Man, our army is so very generalist that our specialists tend to shine
yes,
way more
yes.
than they would in a normal list, because
Yeah, because chameleons aren't great, but oh, are they good?
yeah, it's so weird. The things that people point at and say, "Oh my goodness, that's so broken." It's not. It's that everything else in our book is. I'm not gonna say underwhelming, because we do well mostly as a gestalt more than the sum of our parts. Croxagore aren't good because they're really good, because they're not. They're average. They're good because A, they don't need the support. B, they perform a role and they do that role well.
Yes.
Salamanders aren't really good because they're not. Numbers don't
Yep.
lie, and they aren't the broken horror that everyone says they are.
Yep.
They're good because they have a job and they do that job well.
Exactly.
In Age of Sigmar hates generalists.
Yep.
It hates them. If something is good at everything or okay at everything, it will always lose out to something that has a dedicated purpose.
Yes.
And any
Yeah.
and gestalts, unless significantly stronger than the sum of their parts, will always lose out to things that don't need the buffs in the first place.
Yeah.
The main thing holding us together is the fact that we are so anti-meta.
Oh, for sure.
The
Yes.
meta is entirely built around buffing up things and throwing them at each other, and we are the antithesis of that. This is why we do well. It's so very frustrating seeing people point at what is bad in our book and saying, "Oh, that's broken, fix it." I'm going to keep bringing this up, but people are still saying that about Bastiladons. They're saying that Bastiladons are too good. But
Uh,
but yes, generally that's how I play a Starborn source list. I play very aggressively because you
mhm,
have to win very early or lose entirely. It's also more fun that way. I
mhm,
bring my pet projects because they are they're my avatar. Look at the screen,
mhm.
and then I it's mostly about hero placement. You have to be very aggressive with your placement, and even foolhardily so, where your heroes are running ahead of the army because you're about to airdrop things in front of them.
Yeah.
And being able to read the table is really important.
Oh
And
yeah. They take a lot of spatial planning. Like
which
I've played list similar where it's like I was running blocks of 20 with clubs,
hmm
because I also brought salamanders. Because I think Croxigar are good, but when I'm looking at the list, what I think it needs is ability to shoot. Um, so
I would
instead of
agree
bringing
with you.
Croxigors, I brought salamanders. Because I felt like my warriors already did what my Croxigar wanted to do. Um, but yeah, I've played a similar list, and it takes a lot of spatial intelligence. Like you have to be good at guessing where stuff's going to be. You have to have strong visualization skills to make sure you get your auras right for where you are planning to drop stuff, and
hmm
so that you leave the correct footprints. Like it's a skill intense army to play for sure.
Congratulations, you've already played Seraphon, and that has always been the case. So at least you have practice.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's it's not that our non-meta lists are incredibly bad. It's that they're so much harder to play, which is probably why
Yeah.
they're not meta. But
Yep.
pivoting, we have the black sheep of half of the book that is coalesced.
Yep.
So much horrible stuff I can say about this, but we're gonna try and make this work. How do you what do you do when you attempt to run coalesced?
So my favorite way to run coalesced is actually thunder lizards. Um,
That's everyone's favorite way to run coalesced.
but not with monsters. Um,
Really?
like I like pterodon thunder lizards. Like I do still bring a bastillodon. Um, but it's not like it's not the typical spam. Let me see if I still have my list up. I really hope I do. If not, I definitely should have been rebuilding this. Okay, so, and I don't necessarily think this is the best way, but this is how I've really enjoyed um, running it. Let me do, do, do. Oh, I just ruined it. Give me a second. I gotta
Hmm.
fix this. I don't actually run a slan. Um,
Really?
yep, I run a skink starseer. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with running a slan. I think croak is cool, but I don't feel the need for the command points that a lot of people frequently run when they're trying to like make thunder lizards work. Like I don't need to continually spam the bastillodon. Um,
Right.
Mostly what I'm looking to do is multi-charge in and pin down a bunch of stuff. Um, so it does still have some behemoths, but it has no behemoth heroes. The skink starseers, the general, I do that because I want master of star rituals. I don't care about the stegodon chief or the engine of the gods. You could totally, absolutely run a Saurus Old Blood or a Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. Like that becomes pretty solid in Thunder Lizards. Like you can definitely buff it that way. Um, but I take a Starseer, I take two Star Priest, I take two Skink Priest, and I take a Pterodon Chief. Um, and like that's the hero retinue. And both the Starseer and the first Star Priest are Celestial Harmony. because I don't know where I'm going to need it, like exactly which theater of the battlefield, but I know I'm always going to be casting it at least once. And then the other guy knows Hand of Glory. Um, there's one unit of 40 skinks, and then one unit that's a screener skink of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, two stegodons, both with the Skystreak bow, a Bastillodon, um, and then six pterodons. And the pterodons and skinks are part of the Shadow Strike Temple host. Uh,
What does
one
that
I,
one do in Coalesced? I always forget.
that one has the trap is sprung rule, where you get to pick a unit and re-roll ones against them.
Oh, okay. Like,
Or
does that apply to falling rocks, or is that just attacks?
no, I think it's just attacks. I'm pretty sure it's
Mm.
ones. I don't think it's everything. But
No,
now
no, we
I'm
lost
suddenly
all of our
wondering.
reroll everything.
Shadow Strike, Temple Host, pick an enemy unit. Add one to hit rolls. It's better. It's
There
add
we
one
go.
to hit
Yeah.
rolls. Um, it used to be reroll ones. Now it's add one to hit rolls. Um, so yeah, that's how I run them. And I've played it a couple times. I really enjoy it. Um, the 40 skink blob is traditional 40 skink blob. That's what one of the priest and one of the star priest is for. But you can also still like throw that on your Bastillodons, throw it on your Stegodons. The other duo is meant for the Pterodons. Um, yeah, and that's
Because
pretty much how.
bolas are surprisingly good,
Yes,
provided you are
buff them.
very good, very good at positioning.
Yes, exactly. I don't think the Pterodon Chief is needed. Like you could totally drop the Pterodon Chief because there's only one unit of six riders.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I like the Pterodon Chief um, is because he's another skink hero who can be in places where I need him to be for command points.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He's fast
and
enough
he's
to be there.
fast. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I give him, because I've got the extra artifact, I give him the feather cloak. So -2 to hit is shockingly good. Like he's still gonna die if you put him into like something that's meant to be a blender. But like
Or yeah.
there's small like 5-man liberators, 5-man chaos warriors, like whatever those like little straggler units are that they hold on flank objectives or whatever. Like those things aren't gonna kill him. And that's
Which is
just
good
useful to have.
because it's so easy to do so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's just a movement army.
Mm-hmm.
Like the goal is you're shooting with your Stegodons, your Bastillodons, and then I try to send all three of them into combat against the same horde. Um, like plug up their ends and their center, screw up their pile-ins, deal your mortal wounds on the charge. They should both be, all three of them should be able to fight at pretty good strength. You want the Bastillodon in the middle so that he's soaking up the largest number of hits because he's going to be rend immune. Um,
For a very slim amount of time, but yes.
Yeah, but for the turn that it matters, right? Like
Yeah.
that combo is going to take down that 20 or 30 man block of Mortek guard, and the shooting is going to kill the Galthazar Harvester behind it. Like I've been shocked at how effective it is. Like it's by no means the best way to play Skinks. Um,
It's weird. I'm running a Saurus in Starborn, and you're running Skinks and Coalesced.
and honestly, like I started building this list because I was like, I want to make a Troglodon work, and Thunder Lizard seems like the way. And then by the end of it, there was no Troglodon in the list. Um,
Not surprising because Troglodons sigh,
Yeah,
but
but like if you wanted to put a Troglodon in and make him your general, like I would just drop one of the sets of duos for the priest. Like drop a Starseer and drop a priest and put in a Troglodon. Like it's not bad. Getting Comet's Call is pretty solid. Uh he's not the worst when he's in Thunder Lizards. So like but then like playing around with it, I was like, oh, this actually can be optimized and be pretty good.
mm,
And it's one of the I think it's a bit more counter meta than a lot of this stuff. Like it does decent against KO just because there's no one big thing that they want to take apart. Like
right.
everything's pretty decent. Like Stegodons are decent shooting and fighting. Bastillodons are decent shooting, okay fighting. They're not going to be rending it, so they really don't want to shoot the Bastillodon. Like the Skinks, they'll shoot, but then they got to deal with the other stuff. Like it just it target desaturation. Um, so it ends up working a lot better than I thought it would.
Everyone
Um,
thinks of Coalesced as the combat half of our book, but apparently it works well as tempo.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like a shooting. Oh, and it has bound Geminids
Of course it does. Every list has
because
bound Geminids.
exactly,
If
yeah.
you haven't, then you are a failure.
Yeah, I mean, bound Geminids really just should have been our allegiance ability. Um,
Yes, to be perfect, it would have replaced, I don't know, one of the three useless ones Coalesced has.
yeah, the geometric whatever that makes
Hey,
bad effects in our territory not affect us.
man, I did the math on that, and it only applies 16% of the time
Yeah,
because
yep.
it only applies to specific terrain, and then only sometimes, and then only
But
sometimes.
sinister, like a negative one bravery on coalesce, like I'm happy to ignore that.
Yep.
Um, like it's not nothing. It's just rarely something.
But yeah,
But yeah, that's
I'm
what I've been having
dreading,
fun with.
I'm dreading when they change Geminids, because they will. Actually, you know what? I haven't heard anyone complaining about Geminids. Everyone's
Yeah,
complaining.
Geminids are fine.
Everyone's complaining about Croak, despite the fact that I think that one is better than the other.
Uh, so the thing about Geminids is you can dispel them.
Of course you
Like
can.
it's it's not a huge deal.
I mean, the damage
We're
has already
probably
been
having to
done,
go
but
first
yes.
in the turn. Well, yeah, but like we're probably going first in the turn because we're a bajillion drops always. Um, and most people are going to make us go first because the top meta armies we're not going to cripple by going first.
Hmm.
We'll hurt them, but like they'll be okay. And then we'll be in range for them to whap us. So we're almost always going first. We throw out Geminids, they dispel them. We have to recast them. It's not like them being bound is coming that much into play. It just means that they have to dispel them. And like Zinch, they just do it for free anyways. They've got a Lord of Change. Luminoth Realm Lords, they've got it for free anyways. They've got Techless. Like they're not the holy terror that people thought they were. They're good. Like I bring them always.
Hmm.
It's an auto include for me, but it's not like people don't have an answer to them. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
mostly. By the time they dispel them, the damage is already done, and it's essentially hitting multiple people with the deep,
D3s and
uh, yeah, multiple people with the Starlight debuff, which is what makes it
yes.
really useful.
Oh, well, and they're freaking amazing against Fire Slayers because you're like, oh, you're two attacks each. Now you're one. Like that's a substantial debuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
50%.
so there, yep, there are some things where it really shines, but then there's also like, well, I'm a four attack model, I'm a three attack model, and then all of a sudden it's a lot less valuable. Um,
I mean, it's still very valuable, even against a 4 attack model, which is rare.
oh
Like,
yeah, it's a 25%
which is better,
reduction to their
which
throughput
is almost a -2.
to hit. Yes.
Yes, and a 3 attack one, it is a -2 to hit.
Yeah,
So,
but like most things that have like uh three and four attacks, like they're separate weapons anyways.
right,
So
which
it's
usually means it's back to being a 50% decrease because
yeah, but it's
multiple weapons are
like
2.
normally you've got one weapon that's two attacks and then like two or three weapons that are one attack. And so you're only hitting like it's still good. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying it's not good, but it's the what I find normally gets the most mileage for me with the bound Geminids is being able to do D3 mortal wounds to like 6 units. Uh, because of how much movement they have, that 8-inch movement, and throwing up 18 inches away from the caster. And like people keep heroes near units in order to be able to use command abilities and stuff. And like, especially Lumineth Realm Lords, because like they have to stack up, they castle at the start of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Zinch, because they stack up and kind of castle at the start of the game. Like that first turn is normally where you get the most out of Geminids because you're doing like 5 to 8 mortal wounds to their army, which is really good damage throughput for a spell.
Mm? And it's our only real defensive anything.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Because Summon Starlight just doesn't get in range. Like,
ever.
I think I've cast that spell 4 times since the new book came out.
Hmm.
Uh, because I was never within 18 inches and in my hero phase and needed to use it. It was always like, I'd rather Arcane Bolt so I can finish that wound off of that hero or something like that. Like, I've just never had a good chance to use it. Or I guess I
Right.
should say I've only had 4 good chances to use it. So yeah, like I'm hoping that the new little skink hero has the old version of Summon Starlight where we can put it on our own units. Because putting that on like a unit of Pterodons that's fully buffed up, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just. Hmm. We. Uh,
That or like attack Razordons. Like I know Razordons are kind of bad, but like they're
hmm.
not bad in combat. Like they've got 2 Ren, 2 damage, decent to hit and wound, and like I don't know,
Yeah,
buffing them up,
they're not the
dual
worst.
priesting them, shooting, charging, half shooting, fighting. Like for the number of points they cost, I still like them. Like I don't know. And like I don't know. Like I would love to like be able to buff them up in order to get them like they're at a 2 up save and they're -1 to hit and they're doing all this stuff and like you just missile them in, shoot down a bunch of stuff and then gum up the enemy because you've got a 2+ save rerolling one's thing
Hmm.
that they weren't anticipating. Um,
And you can still shoot while charging. They never
exactly.
fixed
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
so it's not
Shoot
gonna.
and then half shoot.
It's not very good, but it's a lot of fun. That
Yep.
that's that seems to be the tagline for Coalesced. It's not very good, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, if you wanted to do like a Razordon thing with Thunder Lizards, you could totally do the Thunderquake Star Host, put your Razordons in the battalion, double priest buff them, like spend your command points on them. Like you could do that now. Um, I just want more buffs that I can throw on at home
Hmm.
for when I missile the Razordons and my opponent's like Razordons, and then it's like, oh, they managed to kill a Mortec blob. Huh. Like I don't know. I love those little moments.
Yep. So there's yeah. I don't know. Talking about Coalesced always makes me sad.
And it makes me sad because I don't think they will often see top table with regularity,
No.
but I also like them. Like I like Thunder Lizards. Like it's rare that I have more fun playing my other Seraph list than just playing like jungle skinks. Like I don't know, somehow a blob of 40 skinks charging into combat when they're real like living flesh with only a 5 up save, there's something thematic about that I like. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
they feel more skinky to me. So
I
I get a lot of like I get a lot of satisfaction playing them.
yeah. There's a lot of good to be had. Oh man. Uh, we could essentially talk about Coalesced for pretty much well non-meta
Ad
lists
nauseum.
specifically for ad nauseum. There is
But
a
yeah, that
lot there.
the other upside is that list that I ran through is also only 1990 points, so you might get a triumph.
I always try and shoot for 20 points under for triumphs because they are very useful.
Yeah,
They
yep.
they
Yeah,
did
if you can fit it. Yep.
yeah they didn't used to be because we
Because
we
there were
had
6 options.
yeah and not only that but everything they gave us we already had. We were
Yeah,
the
yeah.
army of
Oh,
re-rolling,
rerolls. Woohoo.
but they took that away from us,
Yep,
and so we work with what we have. But those would be our main go-tos for non-meta meta lists. If you
yep,
aren't a fan of uh, if you aren't a fan of Sotek or skinks in general, or you want to play something fun, one of those two, or you can check out our the game we played live. Watch Skinkageddon Rise Again. I don't think that's
yeah.
I don't think that's a very good list, but it was fun to play once.
Do you think changing that skink list to be coalesced would give it more legs?
No, no. You, you saw how much punishment I was taking, and some of the things only held on by the barest of margin at 10 bravery.
That's fair.
I think what would have given it legs is putting a slan in there somewhere to get
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because so much of my problems was the lack of CP.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah. If you just want to have a for fun game and game running 270 skinks plus heroes is a thing you can do.
Hmm.
uh, is there anything else you want to touch on?
Nah, that's the list I've been touring around with. And like I've only gotten like I haven't gotten to play it a lot.
Yeah,
I'll probably bring it out to the clubhouse this weekend actually and give it some more table time. Uh Man, I gotta finish my pterodons. Like I just hate painting pterodon wings.
to be perfectly honest, I haven't done any painting during this entire dry period.
Mm.
There,
I so I hadn't painted since March until last weekend. I painted a priest and a star priest in the same day, and they turned out pretty good. And like, yeah,
yeah, there's just nothing to work towards at the moment, and
I know, right?
I, I don't want to paint something just so it can sit in a box on my shelf. I want to paint something so that I can use it on a
Take
table.
it to a yeah, yeah, yeah. That's been my problem is like getting motivated when I have nothing on my calendar. And like I know, like I just know I'm gonna forget to like reconfirm my tickets that I rolled over, like all those hundreds, like I think I rolled over like $500 in tickets for events
Ooh,
that I was signed up for last year. And I'm just like, which one am I gonna miss or forget to go to, like for this coming year? Like I have so much anxiety over that. I should have just taken the refunds, but I didn't want those venues and everything. Like, yeah.
we'll ping each other and remind each other. But with the main things addressed, I believe that the jungle's calling me home. Thank you
Have a
so
good night.
much for talking with us tonight, Wizard,
Happy to, always.
and all of you have a good night.